Everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 16 of 86. So, last episode I actually liked it. I've liked this series as a whole, but last episode I liked a little bit better than the previous episodes. We're getting into a little bit more about Frederica, a little bit more about Kyria, who was her knight, who ended up becoming part of Legion. The gang's back together, right? Although they may be split up, who knows? And I have purchased the first novel. So unfortunately, I was going to talk about my notes because I don't know how many pages I'm in. I'm like 40% through the first novel, which is covering the first couple of episodes. And I didn't bring all my notes. I left them at my parents' house because my power has been off and I've been taking notes. And so, long story short, I will for next week have notes about volume 1 of the light novel to talk about because I've been told that volumes 1 through 3 cover this season of the anime. So I want to talk about those. So hopefully by the time I get to episode 17, I will have the first novel maybe done, or at least enough to have some notes about it. But I will say, we are getting more into like just different nationalities of people of the 86, and it's fine. It's a little tedious because they're just like, well, this person has this blood and this blood and this blood and this blood, and they're not names like a name. They're just like, are they Onyx or are they Oretta or are they some of the names sound like the names of the daughters from the Little Mermaid: Aurelia, Lena, Anuya. The one thing that I do remember is that apparently Shin has like noble blood in him, surprising no one, because Frederica is no noble clan. She says, now in the last episode, Frederica was like, well, you're like Kyria, but you're not really from the same clan as us, so you're not really noble blood. I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. But Kyria supposedly had blue eyes, or at least they seemed in the OP, they have the blue light coming from them. Their eyes were not red like Shin and Frederica's. So I feel like Shin is of noble blood. Lena is of noble blood. She's not only an Alba, but she's also like a Selena, which is like a special nobility. It's a whole bunch of things. And of just different races and different peoples and all this sort of thing. But there is some kind of establishment. The only thing I do remember I want to talk about, and I'll probably talk about it next week as well, is that there's an incident, right, where the dad of Lena's father, Vlakov, or whatever his name is, was involved in an incident in a small town. And it's just a little throwaway line in the book, but it's one of those throwaway lines that when you read a book, you're like, I should probably file that away because it's probably going to come back and be important again somewhere. I just remember I was reading the chapter and then I saw that one just random throwaway line. He's like, well, I had some kind of incident with people in this one town and it wasn't a big deal, but I'm bringing it out here, just, putting out in the open. And I was like, wait a minute. It's like, I should file that away. It seems like it was important. So I don't know. The other thing was that Shin and Raiden have known each other for 3 years, maybe going on 4 now that we have the current events of the novel. And Fido was originally part of Shin's first unit. The anime makes it kind of questionable where you're not sure if Shin just found Fido amidst this unit that was crushed and took him like under his wing like Oliver and company and ran off with him. But the novel leads you to believe that Fido has been with Shin since the beginning, when he joined the 86 in the army, when he joined them. So that makes a little bit more sense that Fido's always been with him, has a little bit more connection to Shin. There's stuff there that we don't know yet. But again, I'm not fully through the first novel. So next week I'll have I had like a whole page of notes and I left it somewhere else. So I got to go find it and bring it back to show you all as we move forward. So yay. But that'll be fun to talk about, right? So I'm really excited for this episode. I am really interested. We're on episode 16, so we're nearing getting into the nitty gritty. Like there seems to be this Legion horde that nobody believes Shin is coming, and they're like, no, we've got it. Which, like I said last episode, I do appreciate the show makes this seem a lot more realistic. The Republic ignoring, like, anything that Lena or anyone says makes no sense, because it's like, no government is that stupid. Like, there's incompetent governments, but then like, you would at least check it out. You would at least have analysts and take it seriously, right? At least with the Federacy, they're like, oh no, we have analysts. We've analyzed things. We know what we're talking about. And Shin's over here like Malcolm from Jurassic Park being like, life finds a way, you know? that was one other thing. Again, I feel like I'm going to repeat myself next week, but all the colors of the San Magnolia flag, when they're describing the races of people, like the main ones in the beginning, they're all the colors of the flag. They're like, oh, well, the rubella people have red hair, which I'm like, ruby red. The Aurelia people have black hair, which there's black in the flag. The one flag of people, they had the Cerulia or whatever, they have blue hair, and it's like Anjou, and it's like, okay. And then they're like, and the Oretta people are golden people, and it's kind of like Theo, but Theo's not an Oretta because he's a jade. I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot of nonsense. I'm like, you could have three, right? Just make this simple for your reader. But no, I'm sure in the novel it gets more complicated and everything. But I do like that our main characters, their hair colors are corresponding with the colors of the San Magnolia flag. Symbolism. How do you do? So you have that. But yeah, interesting. So I'll have more notes next week when I can look at my note paper that I'd spread out in front of me. Now I'm just very upset, but I wanted to watch this episode, and so I needed to watch it, and I'll just have to have the notes for episode 17 and beyond. So we'll see. But I'm excited, y'all. I hope y'all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive into episode 16 of 86, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay, I liked this episode a lot. Okay, yay! This episode was a lot like it was calling back to the very beginning of the series, which I appreciate because I really liked the first several episodes of 86 a lot. It's calling back to that in a big way. And also not only that, but I really liked this episode overall. There were tiny little nitpicks I had, mainly with the uncle. Dear God, sweet 8-pound baby Jesus, that uncle. I'm done with him. I'm like, get out of here. Whatever. But I really liked this episode. I like what they're doing with Shin's character in this episode because I've been bitching all season. I'm like, give Shin something to do. Like, let us see some vulnerability. Let us see something with him. And this episode finally does that. And I will say this, from what I've read so far of the novel, I do think the novel gives you more with Shin. It does give you stuff from his perspective. It's kind of like, it doesn't give you like first person perspective, but it gives you like your third person observing, and you get to kind of follow Shin around like a fly on the wall, which gives you more insight into his character. So I do think the novel does a little bit better job at portraying that than the anime does at times, right? Because the anime, it's harder to do with different mediums, right? So I do appreciate that with the novel, but this episode does a really good job. And then us getting into Kiri, like the action, everything leading up. There's a couple things, but we'll get to that. But I was like, yes, okay. So I do like what this series is setting up. And we're going to like take the sound off so it doesn't get me copyright. I'm curious about the Legion. Like, it says no face to Wide Area Network 1, the no face. So curiously enough, I want to bring Whiteboard Kun out. So we think that No Face is the leader. Is the leader or the head shepherd, maybe? We'll see. My thing is, are we going to lay Kiri to rest in this season? Or is Kiri going to get away and be like the big bad of the series? Or is this No Face the big bad, the head legionnaire? We don't know, right? We're not exactly sure. I don't know. I could see it going either way. I could see us like putting Kiri to rest and giving Frederica closure. But if this is an ongoing series, I could also see it kind of being like, no, he got away. We're going to have to eventually keep fighting them and doing whatever, but who knows? So it's going to be interesting to see where all that goes, right? But they basically are going into this giant Legion operation, right? So the targets are in the east. We'll put in the east over here. We have the Jihad Federacy. Surprising no one. So we have them over in the east that are being targeted. And then the United Kingdom of Roa Gracia in the north. So north, we have Roa Gracia, right? And then what'd they say to the south? And then everybody's splitting up, going different ways. The alliance of Wald to the south. Got that. And then obviously the Republic. The Republic of San Magnolia to the west. And they have all Legion attached to this network. Begin the attack. All right. And so then we have San Magnolia that is going to be over here to the west, right? And the Legion spreading out in all directions. And we'll put Legion there in the center. Okay. Which we get the impression later on that they attacked from the northern side, is where the Legion attack was, from the northern side of the Grand Mur to break through the wall. That's kind of the direction that they went to. Okay. So we get all that established. Interestingly enough, supposedly Kyria went to San Magnolia and went that direction, which is not what I thought he would do. I figured because he, as a Legion, wants to protect the princess, that he would stay in that direction. But I'm guessing maybe not. Yeah. And so, yeah, the Shin and Kyria parallels of them both with the eyes going at one another with the death wish. Yeah, sure. We'll talk about Kyria and Shin here. Kiri's whole thing, I guess if we're going to put Kyria up here, Kiri's whole entire thing in all of this is the fact that he felt betrayed by, I guess, the Jihad, the Federacy, and the fact that he was up against a wall, literally, and the fact that he just, like, battle and violence became ingrained in his system. And he didn't see any escape from that. He didn't see any escape from that cycle of violence. And it entirely consumed him, and he couldn't find a way out of the darkness. And Frederica seems afraid that Shin is following in those exact footsteps. Because, I mean, it is no secret throughout this entire series so far that Shin doesn't really think there's any future for him. He's like, he doesn't see his brother's dead. His parents are dead. He doesn't even really know Lena that well, much less know if she's even alive or not, especially with San Magnolia getting attacked. So he doesn't see a future for himself beyond the battlefield. So he's like, if I die here, cool. I'm ready to die, ready to be part of Legion if it happens, but I'm going to try. The one thing that's frustrating for me with his character is that he has, up until this point, followed Raiden and the others, saying that I will follow you, I'll be your Reaper, I will stay alive as long as you all stay alive, and we'll look out for each other. And that way, if you die, I'll take your name and I'll take it with you to the next step. The thing that's kind of become weird is that now that there's this memorial set up for all those names, it's like Shin doesn't have to do that anymore. It's like Shin doesn't have to worry about that anymore because they're in the Federacy, and all of the 5 of them, their names are known by the Federacy, who treat them differently than the Republic. If, Karina or any of them die, the Republic, the Federacy is going to take care of it, and they're going to remember their names. Shin doesn't have to go take off a little piece or chunk of their Juggernaut anymore. They don't even have their sticker on their Juggernaut, I don't think, or their, whatever they call the rice and gleefs. I'm with Shin. They're basically Juggernauts, just like 2.0. But he doesn't have to do that anymore. So that purpose that he once had is no longer there. That role as the Reaper he once had is no longer there. So it's like, what is Shin? Shin kind of is unleashed in a way because he doesn't have to stick around and make sure the others get to their final resting place. Someone else on the Federacy is going to do that for them. So he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And that kind of takes away the one thing grounding him from not having a death wish and trying to kill himself is now gone. So he can go back and do that. Back during episode 11, he was willing to sacrifice himself because he's like, well, we made it as far as we could, but we're out of food. We're out of supplies. We're going to die anyway. I'm going to die fighting, and here's it. And Frederica's like, I really wish you wouldn't die fighting. I really wish you would think about maybe living until the next day. Because the way he fights in this battle is like someone that doesn't care whether they live or die. And she's like, that's exactly how Kiri got. Kiri got to the point where he didn't care if he lived or died. And so he died and became part of Legion. And she's like, I really don't want that to happen to you. And you don't seem to care if that happens to you. So she's like, you probably should care, maybe a wee bit. But yeah. And maybe Lena showing up at the end is going to be the thing that keeps him grounded. I don't know. There was a small part of me that wanted him to, like, caress Raiden's cheek. I don't ship him and Raiden at all. They're such brothers. They're such bros. But I thought it'd be kind of funny. And then he's like, no. He does gently take the pillow away, though. And he's like, let's go. I want to make note, Raiden's room is extremely bare. There's not a lot there to look at. He's just got a room. And he's like, there's no time. They're already here. And so it's August 25th. Yep. And he's like, I don't even want to count how many there are, right? This is close to the worst case that I had imagined. Because he's been able to hear them all. So he knows they're all coming. He's like, some of the forces I expected them to send to other nations, and they're headed for the Confederacy. He's like, some of the number I thought weren't coming are coming. And it's more than I originally anticipated, right? And so he's like, the West appears to be the most important theater to the Legion. And I like that Raiden's like, well, isn't that an honor? And then Shin's like, no, this is bad. And the whole part about the West being the center of it, because the West is San Magnolia, I feel like there is a part of Shin that is genuinely worried Lena's going to die. And he's worried about her, that they're going to attack and they're going to take over San Magnolia. And because they're there in the Confederacy and they're not there with Lena and them, that she's going to die. And a part of me feels like he's worried about that. And I like seeing vulnerability with Shin. It took us 16 episodes to get here, damn it. But here we are. And he's like, hey, he's like, during the battle, do not connect with me unless you absolutely have to. He's like, I can't be distracted. It's like Shin's like, and I liked seeing the sweat on his face, seeing it drip down where he's like, okay, I don't want to be distracted today. Please don't. Of all days, I don't want you to like come in and stop me, right? But he's like, I thought I was used to it, but what I'm feeling tonight is rough. He's like, I'm not ready for this battle. This is going to be a lot. And Raiden's like, okay, sure. I'll let you get the unit prepared. I like that Raiden just has this understanding with Shin where he's like, no, all right, bro. We'll get this covered. It's good. I do like when this episode got really serious because it needed to be. I liked those moments a lot, and especially with Shin. And there's still so much mystery with his character, damn it. Like, what was in the note? What was in the note that she gave him that he read? Was it from, it seemed like it wasn't even from Frederica. Was it from Nina? Like, what was it? The picture of them and Eugene? He smiled in that moment. And that's when Frederica got a little bit worried. She was like, I've seen that smile before. And Kiri had it and it wasn't good. So, don't want to think about that. But, and the thing about it is, it's so interesting is that at one point towards the end of the battle, we'll go back and talk about that moment when it happens. But it shows a close up of his ear, and it's almost like he expected Lena to talk to him. Like he was waiting for her to come in and stop him. And she couldn't. So he was like, son of a bitch. And then he kept going. So he's like, wait the others. And he's like, what about you? And he's like, this isn't the time to stay quiet. And that's when he's like, I'm waking up the entire army. Like, no, we're not. He's like, we are going to be at the forefront of all this, but we're not going to be the only ones. And I like that he's like, get everybody up. Tell them it's a drill. Do whatever you have to make them get up, but let them know that the forces are coming. That is one thing that is frustrating, though, too, is when they show up and Legion's there and the Winsel woman's like, gasp, there's more here than we thought. And I'm like, bitch, he told you an episode ago. I felt like there needed to be like a Malcolm character from Jurassic Park. I watched Jurassic Park the other night, and there needed to be a Malcolm character that was like, gee, I hate it when I'm right. Like there needed to be a little levity there, but I was just like, of course, yeah. I do like Bernholt. I like Bernholt whenever those guys are like, we'll shoot this guy if he's lying or whatever, and Bernholt's like, I don't think you're going to. I do like Bernholt. That little line, that was really nice. I thought that was fitting for his character. It's a nice moment. And then Raiden is the one that looks over and sees the little letter that Shin has in the cockpit. And it shows him like, and Raiden looks over and Shin's looking at the letter. And is it the photo? He has like a sneer. And I do think the novel, reading what I have read of the novel so far, it describes Shin's character when Shin is like angry or furious at something. He doesn't yell. He doesn't like scream. He sneers. He just kind of like smiles in the face of death and like kind of laughs at it darkly. It's a very macabre response where he's just like, oh, really? Is this how it's going to be? And I like how the novel describes that. So that part's really interesting. And that sneer that he has here at the letter is just like, oh, well, If I'm going to die, then I'm going to die. But I want to know what the letter said, damn it. I'm sure we'll find out before the end of the season. But I was like, come on now. The only thing that is mildly kind of unrealistic at this point is, I mean, there's Legion everywhere. And they come in, they fire all these shells, they do all this, like the sky raids, everything, the enemy damage. And I don't think, because when they meet up with the one guy from the unit, he's like, yeah, we did a good, we made it, we managed to repel back the forces in the first wave. And he makes it known that the Confederacy forces did do something. The way that this episode and the animation presents it, if that guy hadn't said anything, you would have thought that these 5 little juggernauts like held back hundreds and hundreds of Legion. And I'm like, is that realistic? But, you know, they had to have that. I guess I wish they would have shown us the Confederacy fighting back a little harder, because the way that the episode frames it, you think, oh, the Confederacy's dead. Like, they've just been completely wiped out. And then you find out at the end of the battle, they're like, no, we managed to hold them back. And Shin's like, well, keep doing what you're doing and we'll help you even more. I wish we'd seen a little bit more of the Confederacy fighting back in the animation, but it's fine. That's a nitpick. But yeah, I do really like when the one guy stands up and he's like, everybody who's still alive, gather up your weapons and ammo. I wish they'd lingered on that shot a little bit more, because what I wanted to see was him say, anybody who's still alive, and then it pans out and we see it from the opposite perspective, and there's nobody alive except him. That's what I wanted to see, and they didn't show us that, and I was like, maybe in the novel they'll talk about it more, but I was waiting for that moment. They also look like they're playing Halo. I'm sorry. I don't play Halo, but it seemed like that for a second. Now, there was this Legion come through, and for a second, it looked like a face. It looked like Hexadecimal from Reboot is what that face looked like, and I thought that it was Kiri. But Kiri, according to Frederica's visions, are in San Magnolia, so that apparently is not Kiri. It's just a random Legion. All right. Yeah, the way that they make it seems like the Legion is just wiping out everybody. And then, of course, we see Roa Gracia, we see Wald going through the same business. Nobody can connect to San Magnolia, so nobody knows how they're doing at all. And that's when Shin's like, let's go, we're going to fight them back. It was very much an Avengers moment. I'm kind of teetering on this line where I can't decide what the show is going to do. A part of me is like, based on the OP, is the show going to kill off one of these 5, or all of these 5? Is everybody except Shin going to die? But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know why Karina's crying in the OP. We'll find out, I'm sure. But I'm like, are they going to die? Or are they not? I'm kind of towing the line. I'm like, I don't know if the show is amping up for there to be all these deaths with the 5 that are left over, or if they're just going to have immunity and be completely immune to all Legion attacks for the rest of the season. After episode 11, I feel like that's the case. They're going to be immune, and none of them are going to die. And the fact that this series goes on beyond this season, I'm like, are they going to... I won't be surprised if they kill off, like, Anju or Theo, maybe, or Karina. But I don't see Raiden dying. Raiden is kind of like this stabilizing force with Shin, and he's the one that Shin really connects with more than the others. So I can't see them killing Raiden off. And if Lena's still around, Raiden has to be around to confirm that it's her, because he's the only one that's seen her, you know, through the para-raid. So there's that. But she's like, maintain our combat lines no matter the cost. And that's exactly what Shin wanted to hear. That's why he smiles. He's like, oh, you want me to keep fighting no matter what? Okay, fine. And Frederica's like, no, not like that. And he's like, Roger. So then we get like the lows, everybody coming in, and then it felt like an Avengers moment where they all come in and they all save everybody. What's really interesting is it showcases in this scene, I like it because it shows like just how skilled the 5 of them are. And it makes you mad because you're like, damn, if the Republic had just given them better equipment, they would have been so better off, and a lot of them probably wouldn't have died. But it makes sense why the Republic didn't give them that equipment, because the Republic wanted them to die. So the Republic would not have wanted... The novel makes a point of saying that no one is allowed to have guns on the range, nobody's allowed to have weapons in the internment camps or there. They just have the juggernauts, and the reason for that is they don't want an insurrection. So they don't want them to gang up and take the wall. And they kind of said that the first couple episodes, but it's very clear now why the Republic would not want them to have this gear, because none of their people inside the wall have any capability of fighting back. So if these guys decide to like stage a coup, it's over. Like the Republic would fall because they're not equipped to handle what the 86 have been doing. So a lot of this episode was just literally showing them like fighting off the Legion, showcasing them, and it is a nice feeling. It is a nice feeling to see them have technology that works and have technology that can legit fight back. Like, that's so good. Like, them, like, seeing Karina, like, playing, like, shooting fish out of a barrel and using that. She has the VR headset, which is interesting. She has, like, a VR headset that's, like, targeting, and it's, like, a sniper rifle. So I liked that. I like Theo, like, jumping around like a fox, them, like, pinpointing the targets for their bombs. Like, Anju leads off like the full showcase of all the artillery shells. Like, it's good to see them actually have the capability to fight back. It's really nice to see them be able to do that. Because they haven't been able to for so long, right? So I did like that. So I want to get back. And I do like the idea of like Karina takes care of the major commanders, and then Raiden says he'll take care of the small fry. So I like that Raiden is kind of like willing to pick up and take care of the smaller ones that are a threat, and letting Karina handle the bigger ones. I thought that was interesting. I like that. And Anju and Theo are kind of just running around doing whatever they need to. So then they show off their moves. They fight the Legion. They manage to one-hit KO him. And then he's like, the headless skeleton. You're the commander, right? And so he shows up. He's like, we drove off the first wave, but it only happened because of your emergency unit. You saved a lot of lives. So then Shin sees all this. He's like, the other units have launched. Okay, so let me see what this says, right? Okay, it says the Undertaker has had how much damage? 4%. Okay, so 4%. Werewolf has had 2%. Laughing Fox, 8%. Snow Witch, 0. Snow Witch has no damage. Like, it's showing like how much they have left. Gunslinger has 61% energy left, so they haven't taken any damage, but they've used a lot of their energy from their unit. Theo has used a lot of energy. He's only got 49% left. Werewolf has 60%. Undertaker has 79%. And then we see the other units that are the special ones. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 other units, and they all are doing pretty good as well. They've not sustained a lot of damage either. So, okay, there's 15 of them total. Okay. And he's like, all the other units have launched. So I wondered if that meant that Shin had like 4% power left. No, they had a lot of power left. They were still good to go. And he's like, so the 15 of them could fight off the Legion theoretically. And then he's like, the fullback. Okay. And we see Fido only has like 5% damage. And he's like, we could resupply. And it shows like the ammo that they have left. They still have like guided missile bullets. They have all these different like bullet segments that pop up that they could use. Okay. And so at first I thought that maybe Shin was like pushing ahead when he didn't need to be. But no, he's like, we've got the material. We've got the power. Let's just go ahead and take them out now. And that way we don't have to worry about them later. That is like the Feder Seal handed. He's like, no. He's like, that was just an advanced force. We have to keep going, and we're going to intercept the main wave. If we can take down the front line, it's going to slow them down. And so then we see Frederica waiting there as they're like moving the other units out. This scene was a little weird. I feel like I was wondering what the scene was doing, like what the point of it was, because she's watching that one woman there that helped her get Fido and everything. And we see her reflection in the glass, and they're getting everything ready and getting the spares ready to go. And Frederica's just sitting there watching. And I guess you could comment that don't make Fido come get anything. He needs to concentrate on supporting the commander. Fido needs to support Shin, right? I mean, how many chairs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and there's 20 chairs in the room. I thought it would be cool if there was 15 chairs and plus hers, so that'd be the 15 units that were gone, but there's 20 chairs there. I like the idea of the chairs just they're in a bunch and her against the window by herself. It's a cool visual. I don't know what it means. And I guess she's just sitting there watching this battle take place and feeling powerless because she can't really do anything. Nor does she need to be on the battlefield. She's a kid, supposedly. She does not need to be on the battlefield. No. But instead, she's just sitting here wondering what's going to happen. And then, we have them connecting with Legion. So yeah, the fight continues. The fight carries on, moves on right along. And then we have this wave coming in. The one thing that is slightly, I guess, a little unrealistic is, do we really think that the 15 fighters could handle hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Legion? You could say that's a little far-fetched, but it's an anime. It's fine. It just seems a little bit like they make it seem like such daunting numbers that are endless. And then these 15 just happen to be like this elite fighter squad, so sure, why not? Again, going back to episode 11, there wasn't nearly this many fighting against one, but they were outdated juggernauts. They didn't have any ammunition. I'll take it. I'll take that we've got this elite fighting group in like updated material. I'll accept it. It's just like, okay. If they can handle this, they can handle anything. Unless they run out of gear, right? I guess it's kind of like the ODM equipment in Attack on Titan. As long as you don't run out of gas, you're fine. Run out of gas, you're screwed. And that's kind of what happened in back then in episode 11. So we come back to Frederica, and she's like, if I knew where Kiri was, I could help them. And now she uses her power to try to find Kiri, which seems like it would be dangerous. And then she sees Kiri. Okay. So Kiri is this big-ass Legion, and then she looks around to see where she's at, and I wonder if they give us any clues in this moment. I wanted to look in this, because she sees the Sand Magnolia flag is burning. There's Grand Mur, so she's seeing, so yeah, he's at Grand Mur right now, right? Yep, and then the firepower, and they're firing and attacking on Sand Magnolia. Okay. So, all right, and there are more than just 15 on the field. So, to be fair, the other Jihad people are holding off in the combat areas. The second wave is being held off. Okay. They're advancing on enemy main formation. I don't think what we know is, were Goa and Wald okay, or did they get overrun? And we know nothing about Sand Magnolia because they don't have any communication with them. And they're still fighting on the front lines. Okay. And yeah, they're monsters. I mean, yeah, they're able to take all of them, like lead all of them back. Sure, of course they are. Especially Shin. And that's when she tries to connect with Shin. To be like, hey, Kiri, to tell him where he is. To tell where Kiri, are you listening, Shin? To tell him where Kiri is. And he's not listening. I like that one little moment. I think one of my favorite parts of this episode, it's the tiniest little thing. It's 1 second. But to show how frustrated Frederica is getting because Shin is not connecting with her. When she's like walking around the room and you can tell she's getting stressed out. She kicks that chair over. It's the littlest thing. But it's like one of my favorite moments in this episode because it just shows without her yelling. She's trying to be calm and she's like, Shin, Kiri is. Shin, Kiri is. And she just kicks that chair over like he's not listening. You know, like, I love that. I thought that was so good. And she has her hat off. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then she's like, what are you doing, Shinai? Yeah. And then she tries to like connect with him and sees him on the battlefield. And that's when she's like, she tries to look in and see where he is. And then looking in, seeing that he's exactly like Kiri. He's enjoying the battle and he's just like kind of taken over by it. Right? And then she sees that same look in Kiri's face and it freaks her out. Because she doesn't want to lose Shin the same way that she lost him. And Shin is just going to town and just destroying all of them. And meanwhile, you know, you have Anju and them, and they're all like, Shin, like, what is he doing? And then, yeah, like, there was an explosion, and the stuff, like, all gets through and, like, cuts his face. And the thing about it is, it grazed his pocket, and it could have, like, severely hurt him. But his brother, the metal that was his brother's juggernaut, was there to protect him. And I'm like, if that's not symbolic that your brother really doesn't want you to die on the battlefield either, you know, do you get it? Do you get it, Shin? But the idea that he's just not even thinking about being cut or anything. And even Raiden's kind of like, okay, you're taking this a little too far. Because, yeah, he's getting too sucked into all of this just like Kiri was. Before he was taken by Legion. And, girl, Frederica, if you were there during episode 11, you'd have been freaking out like the rest of us. Because she's like, please, you can't keep fighting like this. You can't keep fighting like there's no tomorrow. Like, you just, like, you're not going to have anything left afterwards, right? Ugh. Yeah. Like, it's a really good sequence. I love the animation for it. It was really, really well done. And then at that moment, when the Legion is about to fire on him, there's a little moment where the sun comes out, and it's like they do the close-up of the ear, like almost like he was expecting to hear something from Lena, or maybe he did, and then he manages to, like, take down the Legion. And that's when the battle stops, because he sees the sunlight and sees that they're going away. Yeah, and that, I really like the part where he just breathes in that moment, and he's like, like he hasn't breathed like the last minute of the battle. That was really, really well done. I liked that a lot. Yes. Very well done. Good. I was like, this part of the battle was really, really nice, right? And that's when he, like, touches and sees the blood and everything, and it's like, oh shit, I've been bleeding. I hadn't noticed, you know? And he wipes it away. And then Frederica came out and stopped him like, hey, get out. She's like, get out, you moron. And I really like this sequence between them. I like, Frederica's character is kind of divisive, where whatever her secrets are, I'm sure she's a character you either like or you don't like. I like Frederica quite a bit. And especially like her here, that she, like Raiden and like Lena, are people that are trying to ground Shin back to reality. And I really like how this scene is handled, where it's just like the rain and the reflection. We see the reflection of him, and then we see her, and she's crying along with the rain, and her just hugging him, because Shin's not a very talkative person. So her just hugging him, being like, Baka, what are you doing? Like, why are you being an idiot? You're a huge fool. And I like that Shin gives her the head pats and stuff, just kind of recognizing almost like what Rey would have done for him, right? I really, really liked that. I really, really liked that a lot. And then, yeah, and you see the Legion, it nearly cut off his head. The Legion, the bullet that cut through and broke the system, it was where the head was, and then where his, like, suit is tore is where Rey is above his heart. Like, dude, you could have died. And she's like, and it says, even so. So meanwhile, we're at the northern combat of District 1, Squadron 1 Sledgehammer. So, interesting. Not Spearhead, but Sledgehammer. And so we have this processor, to all the 86 processors hearing this message. This is Sledgehammer Combat Commander Blackbird. And he's like, our war is over. To all the processors hearing this message, to all who fought to the end, to all who survived, we're leaving the service. And he's like, we all did our best, huh? And the fact the Legion's about to, like, kill him, and then he's like, you get what you deserve. So he blew up the bridge, the wall. Yep. It's basically like that 86 got close enough to the wall, and he was like, you know what? Screw them. Let them fight the war themselves. And broke it and made that little, like, Helm's Deep crack in Grand Mur. That part was amazing. I was like, oh, once you realize what he's doing, you're like, yeah, he's going to be like, screw it. Let him through. Yeah, just the wall into it. Meanwhile, it's the Revolution Festival. It's the day of the festival, August 25th. Again, a year later, day of the festival, and these guys are getting drunk once again and are not paying any attention. And Lena's like, son of a bitch. She's like, nah, we're moving. Let's go. She's like, now's the time. And that's when they have the warning where they see Grand Mur has been attacked. And yeah, and these guys are all like, oh, it's a movie. Turn off the alarm. I'm like, are you freaking serious? And she's like, nah, Grandma has been taken down. And she's like, the railgun, and there she goes. And then she's getting ready to, the north side's fallen, the east and west are under attack from the north too. And she's like, I'm aware. And she's like, it's finally time. So then this uncle shows up. Okay. I love this episode. The only thing I don't like about this episode is this stupid uncle and his heavy-handed, like, we've already talked about these themes, show. We have talked about these themes. How many times now? How nihilistic is this guy? Like, I'm like, we've already been here. We've already done this. Like, you had this really escalating moment of tension where Lena's like, okay, I've got a plan of motion. I'm getting ready to tell you what it is. We're getting ready to go and do this thing. And then all of a sudden, Uncle's like, whoa, now, wait a minute, little lady. I haven't mansplained you and had a slight teachable moment with you. And I'm like, we don't got time. I looked down at the counter. I'm like, oh shit, we're only at 17 minutes. I'm like, why you gotta make a speech now? Nobody has time for this. Nobody wants to listen to you make a speech. I'm like, why couldn't you have made it like an episode ago? Why? Because he stops her and he's like, what do you think you're doing, Captain Malise? And she's like, well, bitch, I'm about to go do something. I like that she like puts away from, I wanted her to punch him. And she was like, well, General Karlstall, Uncle Dear. And she's like, look. She's like, I'm bringing all the squadrons from all the areas inside the Grand Mur to build a defense line before the Legion reached District 1. Why you all aren't supporting me, I don't understand. I don't know why. I don't know why that would be. This part is so dumb. She's like, I'm going to intercept the enemy there. If we do that, we can still survive. And he's like, oh, forget it. And he's like, the people are probably better off being destroyed by the Legion. This part here is what got me, than letting the 86 inside the Grand Mur. I was like, are you joking? Like, I know that this is supposed to parallel history somewhat. I know that it is. I realize that. But I'm like, how dumb. Were they all so inbred that they think this is a better idea? It just seems, and I know what some people will say when I say this, it just seems as realistic as this series wants to be. When it gets cartoony, villainy like this, I'm like, but it's not. And then people will be like, well, in real life, things like this happen all the time. And I'm like, but it's dumb. It's still dumb. Even if it's real, it's like, it's so mustache twirling cartoony, like, we would rather all die than let those pig people take over. I'm like, get over that shit. I'm done with that shit. Like, at this point, y'all should just fall down. Bye. I'm like, Lena, get in your own little juggernaut and leave them behind. Like, let it go. I was just like, ugh. And it's so heavy-handed, his nihilism. I'm like, I can't. She's like, when she says, are you still on this? This was episode 3 bullshit. We're on episode 16, sir. And he's like, the 86 will never fight for the Republic. And I'm like, they have been this whole time. The Republic oppressed, abandoned, and slaughtered them. And she's like, look, and it's not that, it's just that we don't need this. We already know from her conversations with the other characters, from the other characters' conversations with themselves, we already thematically know that the 86 is going to they're going to save themselves to survive. And part of them saving themselves is to drive off Legion, which just happens to coincide with them saving the Republic. And we've seen time and time again in this series them saying, we're not going to be as bad as the Republic. We're actually going to stand up and take the high ground and do the right thing. So this whole speech he gives is completely pointless. We have already been through this. We have had it drilled into our brains. The show does not need to hold our hands and tell it to us again. We already know. There is some times where I'm like, I wish this show would treat us like we're smarter than it thinks we are. Because I'm like, you don't have to like put it right out in front of us with big bold neon sign letters. We'll get it. If you just let us get it, we'll get it. But dear baby Jesus. Even if we beg them to protect us now, they won't possibly have no reason or obligation to. And I'm like, we touched base on this in episode 10. Let's go. Let's pick up the pace. This is important. They'll just laugh and tell them we got what we deserved, which is what the guy on the bridge just said a second ago, but that was one guy. And again, Kirschblut already said there's good and bad 86, just like there's good and bad inside the walls. Why do we need to go back over this? I was like, it completely killed the momentum of that scene. Like, I was loving this episode. I was living for it. I'm like, this is amazing. And then this scene happens and it's like, it's like Tommy Boy where he's like, wee-oo, wee-oo, here comes the meat wagon. And it completely ruins the momentum of the scene. And she's like, they're not obligated, but they do have a reason. It gets a little preachy. And I'm like, we've already been through this. We've already talked about all of this. It's like a 3-minute scene. It's not even that it's like a short scene. It's like 3 minutes. And I'm like, we gotta go. She's like, they've spent enough time on the battlefield that when it comes down to it, they'll decide on things they need to survive. I'm like, yes, we know. We've established. They may obey us at first, but they'll soon realize it'd be much easier to fight the Legion alone than to, again, like, God, he talks so slow, than to protect a bunch of useless citizens who do nothing but complain. And yeah, and she's like, well, what will happen then? And she's like, he's like, if we're lucky, it'll all just be a massacre. But you've studied enough history, no, that won't be the case. And I'm like, well, maybe you should have tried harder. Like, dude, like, come on. She was the one at the beginning of this season that was giving the history lesson to the professor. So, and she's like, okay. She's like, even so, I don't want to give up on everything and wait to die. That's all she had to say. I'm like, end of story. Why are we still on this? I'm like, it comes across like he's mansplaining to her, being like, little girl with your little dreams. And I'm like, we've had this conversation 3 times in this season so far. Move on. Like, let's go. Because it's so repetitive. Yeah. This scene is still going. I'm still playing it and it's still going. Yeah. And then she's like, otherwise, if I don't fight, then the ones who did the same for me, even though they didn't have to, the ones who believe that I could do the same, the scene is still going. I'll never be able to face them. Yeah. That's like a 3-minute scene. We don't need it. Not necessary. We got it the first time. We have an explanation regarding the war. And yeah, they try to say, oh, we got an explanation. So soldiers, please come to the meeting hall. Let's go. And so I'm like, she's clearly not going. She's going to turn around and go do her own thing. Right? And so then there's this moment where he kind of looks away. And he's like, then do whatever you want. Follow your impossible dream until you're satisfied. Because she's kind of like her dad, right? And I guess that's what he's getting at. It's a child's right to dream, Captain Malise. And until that child wakes up from her dream and is crushed against the rocks of merciless reality, it's an adult's job to protect her. Like, he mansplains her even to this point. Oh my God, I can't stand him. He's like, well, I won't stop you, but I don't respect you. I don't respect you. And then he tries to play it off like he's the better person in this situation. He's like, well, you're wrong. Your dreams are going to be crushed by reality. The 86 are going to kill you. You're going to be wrong in the end, and I'm going to be right. But I guess I'll be the adult, and I'll go take care of it and let you go do your childish things. Like, what the fudge, dude? I cannot stand him. Like, he's like, it's my job to protect you. I'll buy you time if nothing else. And I'm like, and then it's almost like she's like, well, did you always intend to buy me time? Like, don't be trying in the last second to make him be like, have some kind of redemption. Like he's been doing this for her. Bull fucking shit. No way. I hate that character. I'm like, get him out of here. I hope the Legion wipe him out. He is a pointless character. He's like, as you watch your naive dreams shatter against reality. I hate him. And she's like, but wait, uncle. And then he like gives a little side eye back. Garbage character. Hate him. And it's just like, again, this series occasionally tries to have its cake and eat it too, where it's like, this character's a garbage pail, but they have a little redeeming feature that you're supposed to really root for him. No, fuck him. Get that uncle out of here. He has been pointless since the first episode. He has not had any development. He has not had explanation. He's had multiple times to do shit and hasn't done it. He is a useless character. If he's there to make us like hate him, mission accomplished. but I cannot stand his character. It's so much like, I've got to go show up the little lady who doesn't know everything. I'm like, fuck you. And then but at least Lena gets the high road in the end. He's like, good luck, General. I'm like, don't good luck him. Don't give him the benefit of the doubt. I guess she's leading by the 86's example, recognizes him as a dumpster fire, and is like, I'm not going to be as awful as you. I'm going to go do my thing. If he ends up like dying and then she's like, my poor uncle, I'm going to be like, screw that. What a waste. What a waste of a character. I'm so mean about him, but I hate it. I hate him. I have not seen the point of his character at all, except to waste time and kill momentum. It's like you're in the fourth quarter of a football game, everything's going really well, and then suddenly a play just slams it into the ground, and you're like, why? She's like, I'm gonna reach that place. And then I like that she has Theo's little sixth handler thing. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, so I am fine with the reveal that this is what her and Annette have been working on, because we have gotten little context clues throughout the last several episodes that we have seen Lena, that they were planning something. So I do like the idea that she's created this. She's willing to go all the way with the parade. Her and Shin are a match made in heaven. They're willing to go the distance. They just need to go the distance for each other and we're set. But she's like, okay, this is now going to connect all the processors. I don't care if it fries my brain, but we're going to connect all together and fight the Legion back. Yeah, I'm fine with this. I think this is a great development. I hate it took us so long to get here, but I'm fine with it. And she's like, here we go. We're going to gather within the 85 districts and prepare for combat. Yep. And I like some of them look annoyed. Some of them are like, whatever. And then I do like the personnel within National Defense HQ. I like that we have like some of the members that have kind of followed Lena that were inspired by her back in the first couple episodes when she was giving her truths. I like that they've kind of joined in the organization here. I like it. Nice. It's a nice little runaround. It's great. And she's like, we're going to protect our honor. And fight until the end. Yeah. And I love that she's called Bloody Regina. I love Bloody Regina. That is a freaking boss name. I'm here for it. I love it. It's like Bloody Mary. Give us all of it. Yes, please. So then we have this last scene, which I am honestly not worried about now that I'm thinking about it. She's like, on that day, Kiri attacked the Republic. So we don't know when this is. We don't know exactly what this is. So I saw a shattered wall and a burning 5-colored flag. And they're like, and a huge legion. So they're like, are they inside the 85 districts? And it's all over. And she's like, is he still attacking the Republic? No. Now. And that's when Shin looks out towards the window and we see Kiri and she says, get down. And so then we see Shin. Shin jumps to save Frederica, but the others are just looking away. So what? Like, are the others going to die? What's going to happen? I feel like it's a fake out. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's like the others kind of look over and they aren't doing anything and Shin's going to protect Frederica. So I feel like it's a fake out. I feel like this is an episode 11 fake out where you're like, oh no, they're all going to die. No, they may get hurt. There may be an attack on the base. We don't know the time frame that this is in, but I don't think they're going to die. I think they're going to be fine next episode. But I want to know what the time frame of this ending shot is. Where are they at? What's going on? What more about Kiri? I would like more about Kiri. He probably got away with the rest of the Legion. What about Lena and Sad Magnolia? What's going on? If anything, the cliffhanger makes me want to go back and watch episode 17, so that's good. But I'm going to try to get a little bit further in the novel and get my notes and come back next week with more about that. So sorry I went on that big rant. I realized how hateful I was just a second ago. I'm like, damn, I just don't like that uncle character at all. He's just not even, I guess to sum up his character, he's not even like a love to loathe character, because there's like characters in Attack on Titan and other series that are well written that you love to loathe them, and you're like, ah man, oh, they're just awful garbage fire. But his character isn't even well written. It's just like it tries to be all these different things, but yet is none of them. And I'm like, what the fudge, dude? Like, why are you even here? Like, he doesn't show up. He's had zero presence for like 80% of this series, and then now he decides to come in and have like a heroic moment. I'm like, get out of town. Boo, boo. Leave Lena alone. And just like reiterating themes that we already know. Like, treat your audience smarter, show. We know, we understand it. We don't have to be told 5 times. But whatever. So, and it's not even a different way. It's like told the same way through Lena over and over again. I'm like, if girl better know by now. Mm-hmm. That being said, I really did like this episode. This episode has probably been my favorite, like, since before episode 10. I think this episode's my favorite. I really liked it. And I'm really excited to see what happens in episode 17. So, yeah. So, I'm curious to know what y'all thought down below. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm curious to know what you guys thought. I'll be back next week with more to talk about with the first volume of the light novel. Hopefully I'll finish it by then. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 17 of 86. Bye!